Did you always want to get into the movie business?
Yes, like anyone else, right?
Yeah.
Did you watch 60 Minutes last night?
No.
They were really talking about the suicide rate. Not only those in the active duty, but the veterans. And we have a larger veteran class than we've had ever because of the duration of these wars.
Yeah.
And suicide rates are now at an all-time high. So suicide is aggression turned inwards. Aggression turned outwards is, the Wild Wild West. Literally, the Wild Wild West was fueled by guys coming out of the Civil War. So that's sort of the practical nature of what we're trying to address. A lot of what I am seeing in the press is aligned with the stories that I grew up with of my grandfather, who was a World War I guy and was hurt and suffered from PTSD. He was blown up on a bridge.
Whoa.
He had a 6-inch skull fracture and his arm was crushed. They wanted to amputate his arm. He wouldn't allow them. It was pre-antibiotic, so he was in a hospital for 2 years. He kept that arm. What they would have to do is infection would set in, so they would give him ether, and then they would cut out the infection.
Oh my God.
Sew it up and hope that would take. Cutting until they got it. And he saved the arm, but it took 2 years.
Could he use it?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. So he went to seminary school, became an ordained minister, met my grandmother, who had her master's in sociology, and they were missionaries in Africa in the 1930s. And he also hunted incessantly. So aggression turned outward.
Yeah.
We were taught it is okay to hunt and kill if you are providing food. So he found some kind of ethical outlet for becoming well-trained in one skill that was not marketable, and that was killing.
Right.
And that's what a lot of these guys have to contend with. And it's not just PTSD guys. It's really all guys that were trained to do one thing very, very well and miss doing that one thing.
Yeah.
And so whether it was my grandfather hunting incessantly to, fly fishing and developing some other skills to be good at, that's what we desperately have to do, or we could end up, in my opinion, with a criminal class bigger than what we had during Prohibition. All the muscle in Prohibition were World War I guys. All the guys with the Tommy guns 5 to 10 years earlier were in the trenches.
Why you got involved is obviously very clear. You're very, very passionate about this.
Mm-hmm.
But how? How did the project come your way?
Yeah. I'm in a creative business with RPM Advertising. There is a crossover of people that cross over from marketing, communications, and advertising into entertainment, from entertainment back and forth.
Sure.
We're sort of the same pool of gypsies, if you will. And over, cocktails, one of my contemporaries was talking about making that jump into entertainment, and she wanted to do a documentary. So I was involved in the initial brainstorming for that documentary, which is Where Are You From? The original intent for Where Are You From was supposed to be a comedy, basically chronicling hip-hop in rural America,
right.
Which could have been very funny, but it was her first production. She ended up finding her voice, and her voice was far more penetrating than a comedy would require. And the people she chronicled, the audience developed empathy towards them, and it was tragic in that one of the performers ended up dying of a crystal meth overdose.
Great.
So it was real heavy material for material that we had started off thinking would be very light. And then it was a matter of the second project. It became very obvious that given her voice, this is the calling for the next project.
You went to go see it when it played at the Cisco Center.
Oh, yeah. I was there at the Cisco Center. Ebert reviewed it and gave us 3.5 stars.
How many screenings have you been at?
4 or 5.
Okay.
I was there when we won the Florida Film Festival, which was a second festival we did. And we've known we've had something special, but that was really gratifying, certainly.
You're going to go to Ebert Fest.
Oh, yeah. Have to, yeah.
What's the next project?
There's been discussions of a couple different projects. I would like to do another piece more specifically on a mental health issue when it comes to Sabrina Lee and Shasta, our co-directors, in the next project. The discussion is, it may feel old to us, but it's not. We need to focus 100% on finishing the year and seeing what we end up with. There's 2 versions of this, an hour 4 version and a 40-something minute version. Whether we end up doing short documentary for Academy consideration 2014 or full-length documentary, that's the finish line.
Yeah.
And then whatever distribution takes place after that. We have big ideas.
What drew you to advertising initially?
Well, there was a local family who publishes our trade journal. I was friends with that local family, and the trade journal Advertising Age would be laying around in their house. And when I got to Arizona State and I was in the library, I'd give myself an hour of free time I kept migrating back to that trade journal, advertising agent. As time came on, if I was going to have to work, it was an industry that was as exciting as I could think of. So I ended up getting a job at an advertising agency before I graduated. And my senior year shifted all my classes to night classes so I could hold an entry-level job at an ad agency before I had my degree. And the thought was I could get a leg up on my contemporaries by already having the entry-level job under my belt.
Yeah. If ever there was a era of advertising, this is it. Everybody feels like they know the game. Do you think it's harder to effectively advertise when everybody's like, are they manipulating me?
You know, there's certainly a savvier audience than there ever has been. But what is most challenging, and where I look back and think they really had it easy earlier, is that audiences are so highly splintered. Back in the Madman days, there was 3 networks.
Yeah.
You took accounts that were advertising in 50 newspapers, and you eliminated the 50 newspaper buy and put them on during Gunsmoke. If it was catchy, America was singing it.
Yeah.
So we're a lot more targeted and a lot less wasteful than we used to be. But it sure must have been pretty fun.
Yeah. Do you have any interest in writing or directing?
There's probably one screenplay in me.
Yeah.
Probably.